12-year-old Michelita wakes up excited.
I'm gonna get ready.
She's hours away from a big cheerleading competition.
I'm gonna start with hair, turn on my lamp, because I don't want to turn on all of the lights, so, yeah.
Dressed in her cheerleading uniform, she talks in a near whisper.
Okay, so, I'm sorry if you guys can't hear me still, but they're all sleeping.
Michelita Rogers took these cell phone videos moments before her house exploded. Michelita would not survive. She was 12. 1 minute she's fixing her hair, and then a flash of light. It is the last image you see before the video fades to black. In an instant, her house, her life was gone. Over the course of 3 days, Atmos Energy's leaking natural gas pipes caused 3 houses to explode. Michelita's was the last.
Michelita was a princess. Everybody loved Michelita.
Michelita's mom is speaking for the first time since her daughter died nearly a year ago.
And she always say, I want to be the very top doctor because I'm going to cure for free people they know has money to pay.
What do you miss the most about her?
Everything. Her heart, her kisses, her love, herself, everything.
Michelita's mom says she knew a house on the street behind them had exploded 1 day earlier. She saw the Atmos Energy trucks.
They never go to house by house, knock the door and say, you need to go out because it's danger here.
They had no inkling danger could be coming.
I cannot smell gas. I cannot see it. And I cannot do anything.
There have been 9 homes that have exploded in Dallas, in the Dallas area since 2006. It's outrageous what they've done. 22 people have been seriously burned and several people have been killed.
Attorney Ted Lyon represents the family in a lawsuit filed against Atmos.
They're almost consciously not taking care of their business. The only time they take care of their business is when somebody burns to death or some home explodes.
After Michelita's death, Atmos did evacuate thousands of neighbors and replaced almost 100 miles of steel and cast iron pipe in Dallas. Yet hundreds of miles of old pipe remain in the city.
So I know when this happen again, we know their family.
The National Transportation Safety Board found Atmos was aware of leaks in the neighborhood. In fact, the company knew about leaks for nearly 2 months before the explosions.
I will never feel safe again, and I don't know how to protect my family.
The Rogers family wants Atmos to be held accountable, but that's not what keeps them up at night. It's the memory of a girl who didn't have to die.
Straighten it, curl it, poof it, whatever, so, yeah.
For years, we've reported on a variety of different issues involving gas lines, and the problems show up in all kinds of neighborhoods. Investigator Charlotte Huffman takes us back to where it all started.
It just blew up. Shook my whole house. You would have thought a bomb had gone off.
The neighbors who lived it will never forget. Wiley, Texas, October 2006. A pre-dawn explosion levels an elderly couple's home, kills them both, and triggers what would become a decade-long News 8 investigation. The state determined a compression coupling had failed, causing natural gas to leak into their home. The coupling was a type prone to failure when the notoriously elastic North Texas soil expands, contracts, and pulls on the pipes.
This has been known for a long time. These warnings have been here for many, many years.
Our investigative team discovered that same coupling connected gas lines under an estimated 100,000 North Texas homes. But replacing them would take time and cost tens of millions. So they were left in the ground, and North Texans again paid with their lives.
There was just a boom.
In 2007, another explosion, this time in Cleburne. 2 are dead, and WFAA again called into question Atmos's inaction.
Do those things need to come out of the ground?
At this point, I can't say that.
After WFAA's reports aired,
all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
railroad commissioners ordered Atmos to dig up some of the older couplings and replace them immediately.
I guess a few seconds after that, I just woke up on the floor.
4 years later, in 2011, another explosion. This one critically injures 3 family members, including a 5-year-old boy who was left with an obvious reminder of what happened.
Just felt a ball of fire, just burning. Then a few seconds after that, I just woke up on the floor.
In this family's case, it wasn't a faulty coupling, rather a 19-inch fracture in a nearby 80-year-old cast iron pipe. But just like the faulty couplings, WFAA learned these pipes had a lethal legacy of failure too.
This is an obsolete, inferior, degraded material that over time sees more and more things pulling and stressing out and causes it to fail. It's a collision course. It's a perfect storm.
What's more, WFAA investigators uncover evidence that government regulators warned gas companies about the danger of cast iron pipes decades ago. Houston's gas supplier heeded warnings to phase them out, and the city has been cast iron free since the 90s, but not so in Dallas. As a result, the state cited Atmos, and Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins called on the company to take aggressive action.
So they need to remove it from the ground as soon as possible.
Fast forward to today, WFAA's I-Team sits down with Judge Jenkins for a sadly similar interview.
My concern is that we have areas of the system that are aged out, that are old, that are more subject to leaks and breaks, and that we had seen back when I started talking to folks about this, a little boy in Oak Cliff who'd been badly burned. Now we're going to bury a little girl tomorrow, and so I want to do everything in our power to keep our people safe.
Charlotte Huffman, Channel 8 News.
It wasn't easy and it wasn't fast, but we got our hands on a map showing hundreds of miles of dangerous iron pipe carrying gas all over the city, from South Dallas to the heart of the Park cities. We all need to pay attention to what Tanya Iser uncovered.
We smelled a lot of gas when we walked out one day.
Meet a couple who live nowhere near the voluntary evacuation zone Atmos created. In fact, Bart and Cynthia Zolnowski don't even have the same kind of pipe being replaced in that neighborhood. They live in the M Streets in East Dallas.
Our neighbors tell us, oh yeah, it's a common thing to smell gas and you just have to call them.
They are worried, and they should be.
Nobody wants a gas leak. It's kind of scary, yeah.
While Atmos crews work replacing leaky steel pipes in northwest Dallas, the Zolnowskis have what's called cast iron piping near their home. Federal regulators have warned of its dangers for decades. In fact, the feds have urged states to replace all cast iron piping. To date, 21 states have replaced cast iron altogether. Texas is not among them.
Should they still have any cast iron pipe in the ground?
When you look at the history of cast iron pipe and all the problems, I would say absolutely not.
Don Deaver is a pipeline safety expert.
It should never be used to transport something that's dangerous.
There has been some replacement work done in Dallas, exactly 49 miles in the past 3 years. But there is still 409 miles of pipe running under the city. And in University Park and Highland Park, those cities have an additional 30 miles still in the ground. Same kind of pipe that the feds say is dangerous.
I mean, I didn't smell nothing, I got, once I turned the light on, it just exploded.
7 years ago, a cracked cast iron pipe led to a gas explosion that maimed Domingo Mendez and his family.
I couldn't have been able to get on out if it wasn't for my dad.
There's still lives out there, that are at risk because of of the old gas line.
In a recent memo to County Judge Clay Jenkins, Atmos says it expects to remove all remaining cast iron pipes in Dallas by the end of 2023.
What I'd like to have done is I'd like to have it done just as soon as possible. I'd like to be able to get it all done this year.
Don Deaver has been an expert witness and consultant in previous Atmos explosions. He has strong opinions on how Atmos handled this latest explosion. In the 2 days before that deadly house exploded, 2 other homes caught fire nearby. Both were natural gas related.
With that first one going out there, Atmos should have been swarming all over that huge area with these extensive leak investigations. before anything else happened.
Atmos officials blamed unforeseen shifting soil conditions for the decision to replace 27 miles of steel pipe in that neighborhood.
I would say that they have a hard row ahead to prove that that was the case, that the likelihood that that was a primary cause is very, very, like Desi Dean used to have, slim and none.
With the Atmos crisis still unfolding, Deaver leaves us with this.
I don't think that Atmos does anything that doesn't involve the cost as the number one consideration.
Tanya Iser, Channel 8 News.
We got a hold of an email sent by Atmos in the hours just before Linda Michelita Rogers died 2 weeks ago today. Investigative reporter Tanya Iser tells us what she found in them.
A house on Durango Drive catches fire February 21st. Homeowner David Lemus's face is burned in the fire.
My family is traumatized.
The next day, February 22nd, at a house a few doors down, a man is burned when his stove explodes. Both fires are natural gas related.
Explosion.
A day later, February 23rd, a third gas leak on the same block a street over leads to a fatal house explosion. 3 incidents in 3 days. What was Atmos Energy's response during the escalating crisis? News 8 has obtained emails that give insight into Atmos's response after the first 2 fires. On February 22nd, 12 hours before the fatal explosion, an email comes from Marlo Sutton, Atmos's Director of Regulatory and Compliance. She writes to Texas Railroad Commission officials about the first 2 fires. She writes, Atmos crews are continuing to monitor the surrounding area for potential leaks and will make repairs as needed. But she adds, there have been no evacuations or road closures. Hours later, Michelita Rogers was dead, and an entire neighborhood was cleared out.
With that first one going out there, Atmos should have been swarming all over that huge area with these extensive leak investigations before anything else happened.
Don Deaver is a pipeline safety expert.
They should have also eliminated the gas pressures and shut them off and stuff and evacuate the people out right away until they can prove that it's safe.
Explosion.
On the morning of the fatal explosion, a Railroad Commission official writes in an email that she'd spoken to Sutton. Sutton told her they'd repaired a leak the night before the explosion, but clearly there were still more leaks.
When the second one goes off, and you still don't go into a full emergency response type of mode, you're just sitting there kind of, don't fix it till it's broke type of this mentality.
According to commission documents, 28 leaks were found in the immediate evacuation area shortly after the explosion. Not only that, the line running in the alley between the homes was so leaky that it couldn't hold pressure when it was capped off. It's something Deaver says they should have done after the first fire.
Atmos has found out many years ago that there's money to be made by cutting corners on regulatory and safety compliance.
Atmos declined comment and referred all questions to the National Transportation Safety Board. Tanya Iser, Channel 8 News.
Smell that? The gas meter's blown off, so there's a straight line spewing somewhere.
What you're watching is the aftermath
Grab a hold of me.
of a natural gas explosion
Use that brick to step up.
in the tiny town of Caldwell, Texas. The police body cam captured the moments after 92-year-old Gene Barber's home exploded in April.
Give me a minute. We're just trying to get this man out of his house just blowed up.
The first thing I saw was a big round ball of fire.
Judy Clifford lives nearby. She feared her neighbor was dead.
When I heard his voice,
Back up a little.
it's like my heart just, it was good to hear his voice.
Barber spent more than a month in the hospital. We were surprised to see him.
Oh my gosh,
It's good to be here.
Barber is the county's beloved retired sheriff.
We never smelled gas nowhere.
A flash blinded him.
And when I went in that bathroom and flipped the switch, the whole damn thing blew up.
Fire burnt off his eyelashes.
How the hell did something like this happen?
They're still shaking their heads in disbelief in Caldwell 2 months later. Here's the thing, It wasn't Barber's gas line that was leaking.
It had been installed just a few years ago, but his neighbor's line had been installed in 1965, and it was leaking.
Oh my gosh.
On there, you smell it, you know. And two of the guys that investigated told me, said, there's three things that cause it. One thing, get old. You can't smell. He said, you're 90, 93, that could be it. I said, no, it wasn't it. They said, the other thing is if it filters through dirt, it will take the egg smell out.
Experts call it odor fade. You see, out of the ground natural gas has no smell. Companies like Atmos put chemicals in it on purpose to make it smell like rotten eggs. But over time, the chemicals can fade.
We still had something trying to flare up on that backside a second ago.
Odor fade's been believed to be a factor in explosion after explosion. In 2011, an aging Atmos cast iron line caused an explosion at the Mendez home in Dallas. There was no smell at all.
Once I turned the light on, it just exploded. I mean, I didn't smell nothing.
Oh, Jesus, help me.
Last summer in Stephenville, police recorded the aftermath of a natural gas explosion. This is what Raul Pedraza looked like before.
Okay.
Brace yourselves. You're about to see what he looked like moments afterward.
Oh, my Lord.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry, buddy. You hang in here for me, okay?
Pedraza has open wounds on almost 70% of his body.
The stove was on?
It's still on.
Okay. Is it gas?
Yes, help
Okay.
me, please.
He was readmitted to the intensive care unit last week. Neither Pedraza nor his friend, who was also burned, smelled the leaking natural gas.
Although he didn't die, I would not want to trade places with him. He's in a horrible state right now due to the burns that he suffered.
Attorney Dean Gresham is suing Atmos, contending the company failed to warn Pedraza the odorant has a propensity to fade.
Maybe they don't want to make their customers realize just how important odorant fade is, but also how dangerous it can be.
In a News 8 investigation that aired in 2010, Atmos dismissed the phenomenon of odor fade. The company called it more theory than fact. This time when we reached out, the company agreed that in certain rare conditions, the odor intensity can be diminished.
That's why I don't like gas, man.
Back in Caldwell,
6 weeks and my therapist is doing a heck of a job on them hands.
Barber is happy to be alive.
Put on your new shoes, put on your gown.
His burns are slowly healing.
It wasn't my time this time, but I thought it was.
The wreckage of Barber's home serves as a reminder of a silent and sometimes odorless danger.
Light and bubbly gas. Okay, I'm live again. So Atmos came. They said, hey, we'll come back in 5 days and fix this. Look at this.
When you see a Facebook video,
You see that flame?
you may not take it seriously.
I lit the natural gas that is bubbling out of my yard. Don't blow yourself up on Facebook.
So I'm reading the comments. People are telling me that I'm dumb for lighting it, obviously, my friends.
Jed Alsop now knows that the bubbling gas was far from funny. He shot it hours before the first of 3 house explosions only blocks away in northwest Dallas. The third explosion killed 12-year-old Michelita Rogers.
Prayers for that family. That's devastating. I don't know what I'd do if I lost one of my kids. That's devastating.
Alsop's leak was among more than 5,300 North Texas gas leaks reported by Atmos in the first 6 months of 2018. 2,600 of those leaks were the most serious type, called Grade 1. The Texas Railroad Commission, which regulates gas companies, requires those type of leaks to be repaired immediately. WFAA reviewed how long it took Atmos to fix them. We mapped 160 of the most serious leaks that took a week or more to repair. One Dallas County Grade 1 leak took almost 5 months to repair.
Leaks don't heal themselves. They're like people. You get worse with time.
Don Deaver is an expert on pipeline safety. He has been hired by Michelita's family.
Is there a financial disincentive for gas companies to fix leaks?
This affects their bottom line, the cost to go out and find these leaks.
Atmos also may have been slow at times to fix less serious Grade 2 leaks, according to their own reports filed with state regulators. Those are required to be repaired within 6 months, yet the reports show dozens of Grade 2 leaks in North Texas went unrepaired far longer. So what about Alsop's leak? Atmos classified that as a Grade 2. That meant Atmos would have had 6 months to fix it.
If you can see or hear a leak, it's a Class 1. There's no doubt.
Deaver says this is a textbook example of Atmos misclassifying a leak. What's that sound?
Gas coming up out of the ground.
After Alsop posted that video, an Atmos crew showed up within hours to fix it.
Facebook Live gets results.
Atmos officials declined an on-camera interview, but in a written statement, the company says it spent $3 billion modernizing its infrastructure over the past 13 years and plans to spend $3 billion more over the next 5 years. In the meantime, gas continues to leak out of their system. How much? WFAA discovered that since 2010, according to Atmos's own reports, it lost or couldn't account for an estimated $98.6 million worth of natural gas in its pipelines in Dallas County alone. That's 9.7 billion cubic feet. So how does that compare? Let's look at the cities of Houston and Dallas. Dallas had a leakage rate in 2016 twice that of Houston. The provider in Houston is CenterPoint. Atmos says the missing gas isn't necessarily all caused by pipe leaks. The company says a portion could be due to inaccurate gas flow measurements. So who ends up paying? Well, you do. State law allows Atmos to pass along much of the gas it can't account for to customers.
Any amount of leakage is a concern to the public.
County Judge Clay Jenkins is demanding that Atmos move faster to modernize its North Texas pipes. Much of it was installed before 1940.
You need to know what's underneath your house of worship, what's underneath your workplace, your kid's playground, your neighbor's house.
Atmos paid about $195,000 in penalties the past 5 years. If that sounds like a lot, consider Atmos earned about $3 billion since 2005.
It's pocket change.
It's pocket change, yes.
Here's some of that lax regulation in action. This past New Year's Eve, Atmos crews had been on scene for 8 hours trying to repair a leak in Irving. While crews worked, gas migrated to a home nearby. According to Irving Fire Department records, an Atmos representative stated there was not a need to evacuate the home.
Oh my God, there's kids there screaming.
The house blew up, and the family barely escaped. Railroad Commission investigators found that the Grade 1 leak had not been continuously monitored to determine whether an evacuation was mandatory. The penalty, $16,000.
Well, the Texas Railroad Commission is supposed to regulate Atmos Energy, and they do a very poor job of it. Almost don't do anything.
Ted Lyon represents the family of Michelita Rogers, little girl killed in the February explosion in northwest Dallas.
They need to clean up their act before any more kids or mothers or fathers are killed because of their leaking gas.
For Dallas, in a deadly explosion killing a 12-year-old girl, all of it stemming from an Atmos natural gas leak. And now one lawmaker is gearing up for a fight. Our Tanya Iser joins us now. She's in the newsroom with the push for some changes. Tanya?
Well, John, Representative Rafael Anchia represents this district, and as you can imagine, what happened out there hit home pretty hard with him. He has seen our reporting highlighting the massive leaks in Atmos' system, its aging pipe, and exposing gaps in regulation. To that end, he's proposing a slate of bills that will hold Atmos and other operators more accountable and to prod state regulators to do a better job, all in the hopes of preventing future tragedies.
They are the images of a 12-year-old girl taken too young, killed in a natural gas explosion in her northwest Dallas home 10 months ago.
In Texas in 2018, these kinds of things shouldn't be happening.
State Representative Rafael Anchia represents the district where Michelita Rogers died. Hers was the third of 3 house explosions to occur in that neighborhood this past February.
And I don't want anybody else in the community to have to deal with that tragedy again.
The bills Anchia plans to propose would dramatically accelerate the replacement of aging pipe, significantly increase fines, make available a searchable list of enforcement actions, create a real-time, up-to-date database of natural gas leaks.
That way, the public can help us keep these operators accountable as well.
Recall we told you that Atmos didn't notify state regulators until after the second home exploded in northwest Dallas. They didn't have to do it sooner because right now there's no timeline for reporting.
What we want to do is make sure that after explosion number 1, we have Railroad Commission investigators on site immediately.
And she'd also require all natural gas deaths and injuries be reported to state regulators. That's currently not always done. The Texas Railroad Commission regulates oil and gas operators like Atmos. As it stands now, its members can take campaign contributions at any time from the people and companies it regulates. What's the problem with members of the Railroad Commission being able to raise money from the very people that they regulate?
It creates at least an appearance of impropriety, right? We need to make sure that there are clear lines about when you can and cannot take money.
Anchia knows he's in for a fight, but he vows that Michelita's death will not be in vain.
We need to make sure that the operators of this system are accountable to the people of Texas.
You may be surprised to learn that the Texas Railroad Commission does not regulate railroads. So one of the changes that Anchia wants to make is simply to change the name. I'm live in the newsroom, Tanya Iser, Channel 8 News.
It has been almost a year since the Dallas home explosion that killed a little girl. Gas was shut off, hundreds were evacuated, and Atmos launched a massive effort to replace natural gas pipes. Now the company wants you, the customer, to pay for some of its losses. Atmos is looking to raise your rates. They want to increase revenue by more than $10 million. The average customer will pay an extra $3 a month. Investigative reporter Tanya Iser has been following this story from the very beginning, and in just the last hour, we got some new developments from this case. Tanya.
Cynthia, that's right. Just within the last hour, Representative Rafael Anchia, he represents the district where that explosion occurred. He has filed 11 bills. Those bills would increase fines, create a searchable database to track complaints and violations, and he'd also create a searchable database for leaks so that folks can know when those leaks occur. And he also wants to require natural gas operators like Atmos to notify residents in writing when there are leaks. Recall that there were 2 explosions before the third one that killed 12-year-old Michelita Rogers last February. He'd also prohibit members of the Texas Railroad Commission, now that's the commission that oversees companies like Atmos, he'd prohibit them from taking political contributions from those with contested cases before the commission. And he also wants to require that all of the aging cast iron pipe be removed by the end of 2020. And Anchia would also like to force companies to recalculate customer bills so that they're not charged for leaks. Anchia told me last month when I met with him that he knows he's in for a fight to get this done, but he's determined to see it through.
WFAA is the only TV station at the state capitol covering the real change that could come from the little girl's death. Here's Tanya Iser.
Había fallecido. They told me, I'm sorry, Michelita has passed away.
The mother of Michelita Rogers spoke to lawmakers through a translator.
They were the worst words of my life. Las que nunca quise escuchar. Words that I would never wish to hear.
So I went ahead and connected my straightener.
12-year-old Michelita's last moments were recorded on her cell phone when she died in a natural gas explosion last February. An explosion that resulted in the evacuation of thousands of homes. Her parents blame Atmos Energy for the death of their daughter.
We had 3 days of consecutive explosions in northwest Dallas. There was no evacuation on the first day or the second day. And it wasn't until somebody lost their life on the third day that the community was evacuated.
Michelita's family came to the state capitol Monday to support legislation filed by Representative Rafael Anchia seeking to prevent tragedies like the one that claimed Michelita's life. The bills proposed by Anchia would require state regulators be notified within an hour of a natural gas explosion, require the removal of all aging cast iron pipes across Texas by December 31, 2021, require natural gas companies to make publicly available an up-to-date searchable leak database.
This is transparency of what's underneath your child's school, what's underneath your workplace, what's underneath your home. Our constituents deserve to know that.
After testifying before lawmakers, Michelita's mom spoke briefly.
I hope they can approve this bill and the tragedy don't happen again with another family. So I hope they approve.
In Austin, I'm Tanya Iser.
Well, for years, we've told you about the deadly leaks in our natural gas pipelines, and now lawmakers have taken action, signing off on new laws requiring rapid reporting of issues in dangerous cast iron pipes. Our Tanya Iser has been investigating this story. And Tanya, it sounds as if, we're all going to see Atmos crews flooding our neighborhoods.
Well, that's absolutely right, Chris. Atmos told me today that Dallas residents can expect to see a 50% increase in the number of crews working in the city. Right now, there's about 400 miles of cast iron pipe remaining. The new laws, sponsored by Representative Rafael Anchia, mandate a significant increase in the replacement of the riskiest pipes statewide. Regulators must now keep records of all incident investigations. The rapid reporting requirement is also an important change. Recall that Atmos didn't tell regulators until after the second of 3 houses exploded in Dallas last February. Hours later, 12-year-old Michelita Rogers was killed in that third explosion. Atmos tells us the legislation codifies steps we already take to ensure the safety of our system, our employees, and the public. These new laws give Texas regulators the power to fine companies that don't comply with the requirements to replace the riskiest types of pipe. And Chia tells me that more needs to be done, and he's not done pushing for changes to make Texans more safe.